Believers, what's the most convincing evidence that aliens exist? The size of the universe. But if you believe in Area 51, Roswell, and alien abduction, tinfoil hat time, the Betty and Barney Hill incident is one piece of possible evidence. It was abducted, and they were frequently having nightmares, lose of time, and UFO sightings. That is not what is most fascinating. The couple went in for a hypnosis session, and the Betty had told the doc she had seen the stars they live by, but didn't know the name. Years later, a teacher compared the charts and found out that the stars were known as Zeta Reticuli. Those stars were uncharted at the time. If we're talking evidence, well then let it be the incredible resilience of life. Some species of fungi have adapted to convert gamma radiation into chemical energy, as seen by Chernobyl. Look at extremophiles and their environments. Couple this with the sheer size of the universe and the seemingly plentiful amount of organic molecules in space, building blocks for known forms of life, then it seems compelling. Adding to the excellent responses above, we only search for life that resembles us. We look for carbon-based life that uses oxygen to produce glucose. But why is that the only possibility? Why can't there exist life that breathes ammonia and produces sodium to feed? I don't think that's possible, but the point is valid. We only search for life like ours because that's all we can conceive of anthropic principle, and that limits our perspective. I have no doubt in my mind that there is life in some form out there. The sheer size of the universe and how old it is the biggest reason. And who said they have to be around the same time as we are? They could have went extinct long before we even came around. Or we could be the first and no others have come since we have come around. Or there are aliens out there right now, but we don't know because we are so unadvanced and we can only see old versions of planets. And maybe they aren't advanced, or they're on the other end of the universe. Not that it really is ends. Or maybe they're just single-cell organisms, or just plants or regular animals. Who's to say they're smart like humans? I see no evidence that there isn't, hasn't, or won't be aliens. We just haven't, and I doubt we will see them. Well, like many people are saying, the size of the universe makes it very likely that there could be life in the strange stories and accounts of people now and in the past. But sometimes I wonder if maybe the aliens have no way to communicate with us. They could have different types of senses. Or maybe they're a whole different size. They could be absolutely huge giants or tiny creatures. Maybe they can't fit on Earth because of their size, and that's why they haven't contacted us. The fact is, I saw the biggest aircraft flying closer to Earth than any plane I've seen. Wing to wing was the length of a football field, and that's being conservative. It was completely silent in the middle of Nacogdoches, Texas. Looked like a giant boomerang with lights outlining the aircraft. 100% believer after that. Just probability. We are one star system among hundreds of billions of others in our galaxy alone. And there are hundreds of billions of other galaxies both larger and smaller than our Milky Way. Even if life rarely arises ever, it must have many times in the past, present, or future because of the mind-bogglingly large size of our universe. However, I doubt that any extraterrestrial life has visited our planet for the same reason. For me, it's the statistical probability. As it stands, there are approximately 100 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone. If we're the only planet with life on it, that makes us 1 in 100 billion in just our galaxy. This doesn't even consider the billions of other galaxies out there. The odds of us being the only planet with life is so exceedingly small, it's almost laughable to assume there aren't other planets with life. My girlfriend and I saw a UFO. We were driving down the freeway, and I was in the passenger seat. I was naturally looking at the stars and saw something moving. I always watch for a second to make sure it's a plane or has a constant trajectory like a satellite anyways. I saw this light moving horizontally from right to left. All of a sudden, it curved up and out into space at an impossibly high speed. Now I guess our government could have some weird hidden technology, but I doubt it's anything capable of this. This thing straight took off. The statistical probability of the chance that there are other life forms beyond our little blue dot. Also, just because they aren't carbon-based doesn't mean they aren't aliens. What if the aliens were made out of pure energy and were invisible to us? What if they were silicon-based life forms? What if they were the size of atoms? There are so many possibilities that statistically, the cosmic dice can only roll so many times before they're bound to have some repeats. Exactly. Billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and billions of galaxies. There are just too many rolls of the cosmic dice for there not to be life elsewhere. Personally, I'm of the opinion that there are civilizations out there that are 1,000,000 years ahead of us, 1,000,000 years behind us, and everything in between. Time is also a huge separator. There could have been entire civilizations that have conquered galactic travel and died out before we even existed. And there could be other civilizations out there that will come around long after we've gone extinct. No, no, and no. Large sample size does not indicate the likelihood of an event. Common statistical fallacy. In our own galaxy, there may be upwards of 1 trillion stars. There are estimates that over 100 billion galaxies exist in the universe. Large sample, but what are the chances that one star has a planet that develops life? You need to compare those chances with the sample size, then you can properly make that statement. Until we can reasonably estimate the chances, we can't say anything. People are barking up the wrong tree. When you put carbon, hydrogen, phosphorus, and a few other trace elements into an atmosphere, such as a big tube, keep the atmosphere at a high pressure with ammonia and sulfur, like early Earths, and pass electricity through it, amino acids form spontaneously, creating a scum on the inside of the container. This is a repeatable experiment. Higher energies like asteroid impacts or volcanoes combine those into bigger amino acids. Rosetta helped confirm that. See where I'm going here? Statistical probability has actually ruled out the potential of non-existence of aliens. As much as I agree with what you're saying, I wouldn't say that. Even if you build a statistical model that gives a 99.9% estimate of something being false, it doesn't mean the thing in question is ruled out. This applies both for statistical models being imperfect models and because of the 0.1% chance going the other way. I forget who said it and too lazy at the moment to check, but someone said saying there are no other living beings in the universe is like taking a cup of water from the ocean and saying that because there are no whales in that cup, there are no whales in the entire ocean. Ridiculous indeed. But as I'm seeing more and more these days, it is unfortunately very conceivable that people say IGNant shit like that. It would also be ridiculous to claim whales exist, having never seen a whale, and having only seen that cup. I get what you're saying, but I don't think it works exactly. A person would be quite reasonable to deny the existence of whales if all they knew was that cup of water. It's nearly impossible for there not to be life. There are estimated to be a septillion stars in the observable universe so far, and there should be heaps more to come. The chances of there not being life on one of these is next to, if not none. I think people underestimate numbers on the internet. Even 1 million people, for example, doesn't sound like too much. But when you actually think about how many that is if they were all lined up together, it's a lot more than you realize. Because it's not all that important. It's like asking why there is only one Stonehenge. Sure, there are other things similar to Stonehenge in some ways, but nothing exactly like it. Not because it's impossible to have occurred anywhere else, but just because it didn't. It wasn't some grand end goal of existence. Just a thing that sort of happened at one time. Stonehenge exists because someone created it, though. Life on a planet isn't intentionally created, scientifically speaking. It's a result of its environment. Playing devil's advocate here, but since we are our only sample to get data from, we don't know what the probability of life starting is. It could be such an impossibly small possibility. Perhaps even smaller chance than there are planets capable of supporting life in the universe. I hope that makes sense, i.e., let's say chances of life starting are 1 in a trillion, and there are exactly 1 trillion planets. We would be the one planet with life. Obviously, this is way oversimplified, but I think it gets my point across a bit better. I will also note at this point that I have never met an astronomer who has seen a UFO, and no one stares at the sky more than us and would love to know aliens exist more than us. We devote our lives to this question. Further, there are now surveys of the night sky that happen every night to find all sorts of things. Asteroids and comets, sure, but also all sorts of other optical and radio signals. The asteroid surveys can now catch rocks the size of a truck as they whiz past Earth. You're not going to hide a spaceship roaming around our skies. This makes so much sense it's foolish. My thoughts on this, and I'm no scientist. Our planet I rotating around a moving sun. Assuming the source of the transmission was doing the same, isn't it unlikely we'd ever find it again? I mean, everything would have had to align so perfectly in order to just get those 72 seconds, right? Also, the senders would be long dead by now. Maybe an SOS from a dying society? The whole thing is amazing and gives me chills. Thanks for linking me to this. Also, the senders would be long dead by now. Maybe an SOS from a dying society? The most likely origin star for the signal is Tau Sagittarii, which is only about 120 LY away. So if it was a signal from an alien civilization, there's a good chance they're still out there. The phenomenon of UFOs is real. I know that there are scientific organizations which study the problem. It must be treated seriously. Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev Why does that mean anything at all? Someone is studying it, so it's obviously real? People study crazy ideas all the time. That doesn't mean they should all be treated seriously. I'm on the side of the believers that there are other life forms out there somewhere in the universe, but I definitely wouldn't use that quote to provide confidence in the idea. I'm glad I'm not alone in this line of thinking. When you look at how life has managed to adapt and thrive in practically every environment on our planet, no matter how extreme, you can't help but be impressed with the sheer force and power behind it. Life finds a way. Jurassic Park. It would be unbelievable that it would only be this way on our tiny little planet. Those look like red, green, and blue dots, which could just as easily be dust on the lens reflecting onto the camera mirror and causing minor color distortion. I don't know what kind of camera NASA was using during the moon landing, but finding out the capture method would answer this question quickly. I get the feeling NASA didn't miss those lights, and they could have easily removed them considering there's not a single other object in the sky. What would this prove to be otherwise? Greer himself is a bit out there. His interview with Joe Rogan started out incredibly interesting, but got a bit crazy towards the end, but I've always respected him for putting together the Disclosure Project. I watched the hearing/testimony when it was first released. There's some very high-ranking officials in there. A lot of their stories gave me goosebumps. The fact that they're willing to break their oath, risk their careers, and potentially their lives should prove that there's something going on. Same here. I hate talking about it because people look at me like I'm crazy, but both my mom and my dad saw it too. It was at night. We were driving back home from my grandma's house on a Sunday night. I was in the back seat of the car, and for several miles, I saw a dark blue thing in the sky. It had green, yellow, and red lights. It looked like it was rotating while also moving in different parents, not a straight line. I saw this thing for miles until I told my parents. At that point, my dad stopped the car and him, and my mom got out. They both saw it until all of a sudden it just disappears into thin air. It was a clear night sky, no clouds to hide behind. It just disappeared. I hate when people tell me it was an airplane. I know what an airplane looks like, and that wasn't it. Great point, my answer would be. I'm 100% certain that they exist, but I am extremely skeptical that they have ever visited Earth. For a civilization advanced enough to travel through space and visit Earth, to not make contact publicly and peacefully or through an ACT of war is just too hard for me to imagine. People are barking up the wrong tree. When you put carbon, hydrogen, phosphorus, and a few other trace elements into an atmosphere, such as a big tube, keep the atmosphere at a high pressure with ammonia and sulfur, like early Earth's, and pass electricity through it, amino acids form spontaneously, creating a scum on the inside of the container. This is a repeatable experiment. Higher energies, like asteroid impacts or volcanoes, combine those into bigger amino acids. Rosetta helped confirm that. See where I'm going here? And yet still, despite decades of trying, we haven't created life in a lab from raw materials. Sure, you can make some amino acids, which are an important building block of life, but haven't gotten much further. The fact that we can easily throw together some basic components doesn't prove that the rest of the process happens all the time. The ancient Egyptians knew how to make metal wires, and metal wires are an important component in computers. But that doesn't mean that the Egyptians were anywhere close to building computers. I haven't actually been taught statistics, but I am pretty sure that when a probability becomes unlikely enough, it becomes considered negligible. Not worth considering. Like the likelihood of me being able to walk through a wall. Statistically possible, but does anyone ever walk through a wall? I think you are underestimating how small the probability of there not being life is, assuming our understanding of how it starts is correct. See where this falls apart for me is we still don't know for sure how life on Earth started in the first place. The most recent prevailing theories even suggest that life could have even started on another planet and was seeded to Earth. For all we know, life existing at all is a statistical improbability, even when you consider all the other stars/planets out there. It gets to the point where even that starts to work against us ever making contact. Yes, there are other civilizations out there, but they are either so far away, exist in such a different, inconceivable way, or it's such a different period of time that it is possible we will never run into another species no matter how far away we travel. It would be like two specific sand particles from beaches on opposite sides of an ocean happening to collide. More likely will exist. Based on most theories, the remaining lifespan of the universe is trillions upon trillions of years. Only 13.4 billion have elapsed, so there's a lot of time life for more life forms to emerge compared to what has elapsed. Any way you look at it though, we are one of the first civilizations in the universe. Unless it ends tomorrow. Same. That life exists on another planet seems inevitable to me. We think life could exist on others' planets in our own solar system. There's no doubt in my mind that the universe is teeming with life. Now, whether it's made it to the self-aware status that we have, I don't know. I don't know that we can ever know either, so I'm not sure if that counts as aliens. But I do think life exists on other planets. Yeah, but that's like saying, there's nothing like my house. Sure, the one next to it is very similar, but there is nothing like mine. We aren't looking for life that is exactly like that on Earth. We aren't looking for another Stonehenge. We are looking for something similar. Something that has the same basic structure to what we expect on Earth, but still we expect it to be its own unique thing. And trust me, there are a ton of stuff that has the same basic principles as Stonehenge. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.